Good evening. Today I am reviewing Why We Sleep by Mathew Walker, PhD. Just to start off, this is definitely the kind of self-help book I'm definitely interested in now, and the type of self-help book I'm interested in now. If you watch a lot of my earlier videos, I basically just like picked out the most popular self-help books and read them and reviewed them, and that's fine at first, but eventually they all start to say the same stuff, and they don't feel very they lack depth. And it's not me criticizing self-help books or like the most basic popular ones, but like they lack depth and they kind of say the same things over and over again. But now I found a new type of self-help book, and it's basically just about physical health, like how to take care of yourself and how to keep your body and your mind as healthy and as sharp as possible. And the way to do that is sleep, as I've learned from reading Why We Sleep. This is an incredible book for anyone who might struggle with sleep, or, well, actually, if you're struggling with, the only negative reviews about this book are people who are struggling with sleep and they're kind of looking for a resource to help them sleep. And they read this book and all it does is give them more anxiety about the fact that they can't sleep because it goes over all the negatives of not sleeping. And he clarifies that at the beginning of this book too. So I don't know why people are writing these negative reviews, because he clarifies at the very beginning of the book that this book isn't for you if you need help trying to, get sleep. There are other resources for that. This book goes over what happens when we sleep from the beginning to end, what happens when we get the right amount of sleep, and what happens when we don't get enough sleep. It goes into great detail and lists hundreds of studies over all sorts of different categories related to sleep. How people who are sleep deprived compare to drunk people, how sleep deprived people perform and memorize tasks, and all sorts of health things, such as like mental health, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, how sleep relates to all of those and increases your chances of getting all of those. And then all sorts of stuff for like the physical body too, so such as like cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, stuff like that, physical performance like in sports and stuff. Everything is related and linked to your sleep. If there's one thing I've taken from this book, it is that if you're trying to change your life, if you're trying to become a healthier person, the number one thing you have to focus on is sleep. And I think one of the most important points that he points out in this book is that I don't know what the word for it is, but like people look down on other people who sleep a lot and they think it's lazy. If someone's sleeping in to make sure they get 8 hours of sleep, or if someone takes a 30-minute nap in the middle of the day, some people look at that as lazy. But the proven fact is that those people are the ones who are at the top of their game more often than not. Mentally and physically, they are healthier, they are sharper, they are faster. I thought it was very interesting to learn that people used to have biphasic sleep instead of I forgot what the word for sleeping one time a day is, but sleeping during the night and then taking a nap in the middle of the day is called biphasic sleeping, and it's how we used to sleep before industrial society, modern society. And that is actually extremely helpful and natural. It explains why we get drowsy in the afternoon sometimes. And some people don't get drowsy in the afternoons anymore, or that's not an issue to them because they drown themselves with caffeine. And that's interesting to learn about what caffeine does to the body and mind as well. When it comes to sleep, people who drink caffeine all the time, especially after the afternoon, are actually hurting themselves in the long run. They're depriving themselves of good, deep quality sleep. And that's pretty prevalent, seeing as though pretty much everyone drinks caffeine in one way or another. And it's actually destroying their sleep. And when it destroys your sleep, it makes you more tired the next day. And when you're more tired the next day, you drink more caffeine, and then you drink more caffeine, and then you get terrible sleep again, and it's just a vicious cycle. And he explains all of that. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling on. Those are just a few things that I found so interesting about this book. I feel much more educated about sleep, and I no longer feel shame for wanting to get the right amount of sleep before going to bed. Going to bed early and waking up at the proper time to make sure I get enough sleep. I have no shame in that anymore. And one of the things he emphasizes is that we shouldn't have shame in that. Because if we want to be our best selves, we need sleep. It all starts with sleep. It all revolves around sleep. It is so important. I take naps now in the middle of the day with my lovely girlfriend. We take like 30-minute to an hour naps every day, and it feels incredible. I do it at work too, but I'd probably get killed for that, unfortunately. There are companies that are starting to allow their employees to have a nap in the middle of the day because it is proven to save them money. It is proven to make their employees more sociable, more friendly, more productive, smarter, more energized. All of these incredible things just by taking a nap in the afternoon, not even talking about the sleep. So yeah, I mean, as you see, I'm getting excited. I could just talk on and on about sleep. Mathew Walker did a great job convincing me of why it's so important and educating me. And I highly recommend this book for everybody because it's a third of our lives, and it's important that we understand what's happening when we're sleeping, we understand the benefits, and we respect it. And we make sure we get enough because it is the foundation of health. It's more than the foundation of health. It's the ground that the foundation is laid on. It is so important. Anyways, I recommend this book, Mathew Walker, Why We Sleep. Great book. If you read it, I'm glad you did, and you'll be glad you did. Have a great day.